Okay, I guess we start. First, I want to thank Creative Time for inviting us to speak here. And they often encourage presenters to do or talk about a single project. We thought about that and realized that our 40 years of work is actually, in a sense, a single project. So we're going to do 40 years in 10 minutes. What our project has been is to represent activism in our community. And the community we draw on is the labor movement, social justice groups, and those working in culture. And we also do it in this place. We work here in Toronto, on the land of the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, and the Mississauga of the Credit River. But it is also a land that has been built through slavery and its legacy, racial exclusion, and the exploitation of workers from around the world. We started as minimalist sculptors and pursued a career in New York City in the early 1970s. We basically sought fame, but as we sought fame, we became politicized. This is from a cover of a catalog we did at Still Privileged Art in 1975, and it depicts our rejection of the art market. And as Alan Sekula pointed out to us, referring to Michelangelo, it's our expulsion from the Garden of Eden.
It started with conversations about feminism, why Karl's work was favored over mine. This in turn led to discussions with other artists about how the art market determines artistic value. So after 8 years and little fortune, we returned back to Toronto. In our projects, we develop fictional narratives from documentary resources. This is part of a series called Linda, depicting women striking for a first contract in 1980.
We use fiction because many workers are vulnerable, but also, importantly, it allows us to say more. We're able to articulate personal details in a broader political and social context.
We often structure our... I'm sorry.
It's working out between two of us is really a challenge. We listen to members' stories, but also discuss cultural representation and politics. It's an exchange. We also do work to build a cultural infrastructure within the labor movement, such as the Workers' Arts and Heritage Center in Hamilton.
We often structure our work through historical narratives. This is from a 1985 series that we did about the nuclear power workers and the nuclear industry.
The series starts with this image on the birth of nuclear power in 1945 and the complicity of uranium in the Manhattan Project, hence the mine owner behind the window. And it ends in the aftermath of the crisis at 3 Mile Island in the US.
Free trade is is again back in the news. The original free trade agreement of 1989 was triggered by the US demanding an end to subsidies to Canadian publications. We were then involved with Fuse magazine.
Trade unions are and were a major opponent of free trade agreements, and this opposition has been vindicated by the subsequent demise of industrial labor, which has led to the political climate today. We've done 2 projects outside of Canada. We're not comfortable representing other cultural contexts. This is a series we did on the cod fishery in Vigo, Spain in 1994.
We were invited to create a piece for the Vigo Photo Biennale. We initially hesitated, but discovered that Vigo was one of the major European fishing ports whose trawlers fished off of Canada's Grand Banks. So we did a piece about the demise of the Canadian fisheries.
This image is from a series, Not a Care, that we did in 1999. The image is based on a Li Tang scroll of the 11th century.
I'm lost. No. Oh, right, sorry. We often have our own investment in an issue, such as Karl's experience of being hospitalized. Not a Care, was based on the conversations with healthcare workers. While medicine promises to prolong life, art offers immortality. We used history of art to depict the history of caring.
In the 2000s, we began posing actual union members in our final images before always having used actors. This is from a series, Ill Wind, and it's based on visual workshops we did with healthcare workers in 2001.
As public employees, they were less vulnerable and are often able to speak out publicly. In this piece, workers are caught between the demands of management and the needs of their patients. Many of our projects are comprised of a series of images that create a narrative story. We thought we should show a complete series as the images form a continuous whole. Our piece, called Calling the Shots, was a response to the protest against the Summit of the Americas that we did in 2002.
We participated in the demonstrations in Quebec City, which was enveloped in tear gas, and featured the arrest of a demonstrator for lobbing teddy bears over a fence surrounding the summit.
Demonstrations are about media. Protests are staged for the media as much as the media reconstructs them as spectacles of violence.
A shift in the focus of our work follows a shift of the move from industrial work to that of service and precarious work. An early manifestation is that of employing migrant farm workers on the farms in Canada, who work for a minimum wage with no benefits and work at the mercy of their employers.
This image, called Salt of the Earth, we did in 2008, and it depicts migrant workers exposed to pesticides. Mother Earth connects the exploitation of the earth to that of labor. We have reinterpreted a number of historic paintings in our work, in which there is a direct reference to the content of the originals.
This image is based on a Bruegel painting, The Fall of the Rebel Angels, that was made in 1562. It is itself a depiction of the battle between good and evil. It's a fluid composition that lent itself to the politics of water, where we have environmental angels battling the fallen angels of corporate greed.
Liberty Lost is a response to the heavily policed protest against the G20 summit that was held here in Toronto in 2010, and is based on the Delacroix painting of 1830.
We saw the full mobilization of the security state against the protesters of corporate capitalism. It was the suppression of liberty set in the financial district of Toronto.
Our work attempts to reveal the not-so-invisible hand of the market. We are seeing a backlash against the arrogance of neoliberalism. Unfortunately, the left seems unprepared. In fact, opposition today seems to be a bit more cultural than political.
This is the first time that we're showing this image. We just completed it. Its title is Endgame. And it's basically a depiction of the rise of the right as capitalism's endgame, hence its title. You'll notice in the deep background behind the scenes is a corporate playing chess with death. We mix a political debate with a theatrical production.
And now, what about tomorrow night? Well, when asked to participate in Nuit Blanche's monument to a century of revolutions, we wondered about the revolution in Toronto. So in that spirit, we asked the Ontario Coalition Against Poverty, known as OCAP, known for challenging City Hall, if they would collaborate with us around their campaign for shelters.
What we are doing is we're putting a studio inside a container that's going to be at City Hall, and in that container, we set up characters to represent the history of resistance to poverty. We're encouraging people to take a selfie so the character in the foreground is actually a member of the public taking a selfie, that they will post to social media to support a campaign of shelters for the homeless. Thank you, we're right on time. How about that?
Thank you.
So,
Oh, you're gonna, yes. Come on out.
please come out and take a selfie tomorrow night.
Thank you so much for this. It's great to see, in particular, one aspect, which is how you have defined your approach to our history as taking a reference to the history of caring, right? And in that sense, I want to refer to what I think is a beautiful statement by a writer called Yaisa Hernandez Velázquez, when she said that artists are better equipped sometimes than historians to tell the history the way it felt,
Yes.
not so much the way it happened, right?
Right.
And I think you have proved that with your work.
Thank you.
And in relation to that, I know I'm going to ask a very difficult question, but I want you
Then
to
I give it
try.
I give it to him. Go ahead.
You know, half and half, that's why. And I want to ask, how does one exceed effectively the time and place of the artistic experience, right? How does one affect public realm? Because this is what you bring with your work, but it's still in the context of a fabulation. So how you assess that in order to be effective in the public realm?
You're right, that's a tough question. And it's one that sometimes gets asked in the sense of, is your work effective, or how do you measure the effect of your work and this sort of thing? And I think the way that we usually answer it is we're part of a larger collective process. Our individual work is part of a lot of other work. For instance, we'll see a lot of that other work as part of the Monuments to Revolution, as Nuit Blanche, or many other groups that will be working there. And I think collectively we have an impact, right?
Brilliant.
And I think what's happened over the last number of years, more and more artists are speaking out politically, which means this having a greater effect, I hope. And that's why we said, in a funny sense, opposition today is as much cultural as it is political.
Right.
Brilliant. That's a great response. Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.